Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping straight into a topic that totally shifts how we usually think about artificial intelligence. I'm Ryan, and I've got our resident expert Taylor here with us.
Hey, Ryan. Glad to be here.
So, Taylor, usually when we talk about AI, we're completely laser focused on one thing, right? Accuracy. We're always asking, did it hallucinate, or is this answer actually right? But today, we're zooming out. We're moving past just simple accuracy to look at something way more impactful, the real human impact of these systems. Which brings us to the core question we really need to start asking. Is the answer fair? Because look, I'll admit, when I first started learning about this, I naturally assumed that if the code is right and the math is doing what it's designed to do, the output just has to be perfectly neutral, right? Well, that is such a common assumption. But it actually leads us to a really fascinating and, honestly, a bit unnerving truth about these systems. An AI can be technically flawless, literally doing exactly what the developers intended, operating at peak efficiency, and it can still churn out results that affect real people unfairly. Man, that's wild. How does a machine that only speaks in ones and zeros actually become unfair? Let's figure that out in Section 1, the root of bias, and see exactly how data shapes the AI. So help me bust a major myth here, Taylor. Is there some malicious developer sitting in a dark basement intentionally programming the AI to be biased against certain groups of people?
Usually, not at all. That's a total myth. The reality is that AI simply learns its behaviors straight from its training data. Think about it like a giant puzzle. Let's say a company wants to build an AI to screen resumes and find great job candidates. To train the system, they feed it their historical data, specifically the profiles of employees who were super successful in that role over the last, say, 20 years.
Okay, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable data-driven approach.
Exactly. It sounds completely logical. But what if that company's past hiring practices, even if it was totally unintentional, heavily favored one specific demographic group over all the others? Well, that historical data is now inherently imbalanced. So when the AI eats up thousands of those past resumes, it just spots the pattern. The machine connects the dots and concludes, oh, the traits of this one specific favored group are the traits of a successful candidate. Boom, you now have a biased AI deciding the future of hiring.
Wow. So they literally never wrote a line of code that said favor this specific group. They didn't have to tell the machine to do that at all.
Hit the nail on the head, Ryan. The system simply learns patterns that already exist in the data. And that unintentional, passive learning process, that is exactly what makes fairness in AI such a massive knot to untangle. The machine isn't inventing prejudice out of thin air. It's just holding up a mirror to our own historical data, flaws and all, and scaling it way, way up.
Okay, so is there a textbook term for what we just walked through?
Yep. We call this algorithmic bias. It refers to the patterns in an automated system that can lead to unfair outcomes. It's a great foundational way to look at it because it reminds us that the bias isn't necessarily a programmed prejudice. It's just a mathematical pattern the AI found that ends up causing real-world unfairness.
And understanding that real-world impact is absolutely crucial. Which brings us to Section 2, real-world algorithmic bias and the stakes of automated decisions. Right, because AI isn't just a fun novelty anymore. Like, if my streaming app gets confused and recommends some goofy, terrible comedy right after I just watched a super heavy, serious documentary, well, that's low stakes. It's mildly annoying, I waste maybe 10 minutes of my life, but I move on.
Totally. But contrast that weird movie recommendation with the high-stakes reality of how AI is actually being deployed today. We're talking about massive, life-altering decisions, employment screening, medical diagnostics, lending approvals. A bad movie pick is a nuisance. But an unfair algorithmic decision that denies someone a job, a home loan, or proper healthcare based on their background, that is incredibly severe. The stakes have literally never been higher.
Hearing all of that, my brain immediately goes to, okay, so how do we fix this? Where is the Make Fair button I can just click?
Ugh, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, Ryan, but a simple button does not exist. You can't just run a quick antivirus scan for bias, but while there is no magic fix, there are some absolutely vital practices that anyone building or using these tools has to follow.
Let's walk through how to build a framework for fairness with these 5 essential steps. First, developers have to deeply examine their training data for those historical imbalances we just talked about. Second, they need to rigorously test these systems using different demographic groups. Third, they have to actively hunt for unequal outcomes during that testing phase. You can't just hope for the best. Fourth, involve diverse perspectives during development to catch blind spots early. And fifth, absolutely keep humans involved in the loop for the final decisions.
Got it.
So to summarize, fairness isn't just a one-time box you check before you launch a product. It's an ongoing, active commitment for the entire life of the tool.
Exactly. Which leads us right to the second pillar of responsible AI, Section 3, the privacy principle, and what we actually give the AI.
I love this pivot because if fairness is all about the output, privacy is entirely about the input.
Because honestly, right now, it feels like everyone is just enthusiastically dumping massive amounts of personal and professional data into these AI chatbots, right? Asking it to summarize documents, draft emails, analyze giant spreadsheets.
Oh, it's incredibly easy to do. But before you just copy and paste that work document into a public AI tool, you really need to pause. Does that document have private info? What about confidential business strategies, student records, or medical details, financial info, passwords, account numbers? If you are feeding any of this into a public AI, you are potentially exposing highly sensitive data to a platform that very well might use your inputs to train its future models.
You know, I really love this phrasing, capability does not equal permission. It's a total light bulb moment for me. Just because an AI chatbot is insanely capable of summarizing a confidential financial report in 5 seconds doesn't mean I actually have to permission or that it's even appropriate to hand that data over. I'm still the steward of that information.
Beautifully said. That is literally a foundational rule of responsible AI use. Just because you can absolutely does not mean you should.
And you know, this completely flips the script on how we think about AI risk. You might think the risk starts when the AI hands you an answer, but really, responsible AI use starts before you even press enter. Here are 3 crucial steps to protect privacy. First, just pause and ask yourself, does the AI actually need this sensitive info to do the task? Second, if you really must use it, anonymize the data. Scrub the names, personal details, and specific identifiers before you paste it in. And third, seriously consider if you even need a public AI tool for the job. Sometimes the old-fashioned way is the only truly secure way. So if bias is about who is being helped or harmed by the output, and privacy is about what information we hand over on the input, the common denominator is us. Which brings us to our final section, the human judgment factor and your recurring role in AI.
I think my biggest takeaway regarding the tech itself is that, yes, computers process information incredibly quickly, but speed and raw computing power do not automatically make the results fair, objective, or appropriate. A computer's decision is not inherently neutral, which I guess brings back the recurring guest star of literally all our AI discussions, human judgment.
I love that, and it's so true. Human judgment is the essential ingredient here. We simply cannot outsource our critical thinking to an algorithm. We absolutely have to stay in the driver's seat to make sure we're using these tools responsibly.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, Taylor, what are the core takeaways you want everyone to walk away with?
Okay, here are the 3 big points to ensure you're acting responsibly. Number 1, always remember that AI reflects existing data biases. It's a mirror of the past, not some perfectly objective judge. Number 2, actively consider the potentially unfair impacts these systems might have on different groups of people, especially when the stakes are high. And number 3, vigorously protect privacy by controlling exactly what information you feed into these tools.
You know, if there is one single powerful question to just synthesize everything we've talked about today, it's this. Who could be affected by this? Absolutely. Whenever you're looking at an AI tool, you've got to ask yourself, who provided the data? Who is benefiting from this output? Who might actually be harmed by a biased decision here? And whose privacy could be compromised by what I'm typing right now? Shifting your mindset from simply asking, does this AI work, to is it being used responsibly, that is the most important shift you can make. Keep asking those questions, keep your human judgment sharp, and hey, thank you so much for joining us on this explainer. Keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.